Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Happy Thursday. We've got a busy day today. Lots to talk about around the NBA. We've got a little announcement to start the show as well, but we also need to talk about the Clippers and Paul George, James Harden as well, where things are at there. We're going to look at the Lakers, their coaching search. We're going to talk about the 76ers, still interested in Jimmy Butler, how that could play out. The draft, players already withdrawing. Kristaps Porzingis ramping up, and all kinds of other things for us to get into. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me over on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, it's an exciting time of year. There's so much. It's like we've got this crazy merging of the playoffs, draft, free agency, trades, all of it converging right now in the NBA as we're almost to June.
Yeah, it really is a lot happening right now. I was asked yesterday, like, hey, do you get to have a night off without the Eastern Conference Finals already over? You could take a night off. And I was like, yeah, a little bit, but I'm trying to watch some film on some draft guys that I haven't seen yet and catch up. And it was like, take a night off. And I was like, yeah, that's what August is for. We'll get there. We'll get there. I mean, the draft's less than a month away, and I'm still trying to get caught up on a handful of guys I don't really know enough about yet. And they're good chance they'll be drafted or they'll show up on summer league rosters. And I want to be at least semi-intelligent when we talk about those guys when we get there. So I'm trying to get caught up as best we can. But yeah, this time of year, there's always a lot happening just because we've got, right, in theory, the best basketball of the year going on because we're this deep into the playoffs and everything else. But yeah, it's crazy. I wanted to ask you a question though, real quick, because I forgot to ask you this yesterday.
Okay.
Were you like an NCAA football guy back in the day? Like that video game? No.
No.
Oh, man.
No.
See, I am beyond fired up that the new version is coming back. And I totally informed my wife today. I'm like, if I get a PS5, which I don't have one, so if anybody wants to donate one, my birthday is if I get a PS5 in that game, the minute NBA free agency is over, I'm checking out for 2 months, and that's all I'm gonna do is play NCAA. Or I think it's called college football now. But yeah, man, I love that game so much.
I never got it. I've played it, but I never got into that stuff. But a big part of it too is I've just never had time for college sports. I've always been so preoccupied with everything going on. Of course, the NBA, but then you've got MLB, you've got MLS, you got all the other stuff. I've just never been able to really fully dive into it. As Studio Stu is making his presence known here.
Perfect.
But that's I've heard the buzz about this. People are excited, and if we just don't do a show for 2 months, then we know what happened.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, if every day when you text me hey, what time can we record today? I'm like, none time.
None.
Or you can get the side profile while I look at the TV, and I occasionally say, yeah, that sounds good. Good, perfect. You might get me to agree to all kinds of things by that point. Who knows? I might be so distracted, but we'll see. But yeah, man, I'm fired up. I can't wait. So I meant to ask you yesterday because there was a big article or series of articles that dropped on The Athletic about it, and I was devouring them so excitedly about all this stuff. And I was telling a couple people, they're like, don't you live 20 minutes away from where they're making the game? And I was like, yeah, but that doesn't mean I can just walk in and be like, hey, can I play?
Hey, give me a game.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Can I have a copy, please, and something to play it on? Because I'm still a couple systems behind. No, that's unfortunately. I wish I had that kind of cachet in the world, but not yet. We'll get there. A few more people subscribe to the show. We'll get there. So there's my pitch. Please subscribe.
Speaking of which, we actually have a little announcement here. You guys have heard about the basketball bulletin, our Substack that we've launched that Bryce Simon is doing some great work on. I published something yesterday all about kind of the ins and outs of interviewing an NBA player, just because that was top of mind, because I just did that interview with Torian Prince. So I published that yesterday.
Seriously, people, you did a great job laying that out. Some of the, it was cool too, because you were here's some of the things that were rough when I first started doing it. Here's some of the things that are still, you come out. And the thing that most resonated with me, having been in that exact spot, is the minute you leave, you're like, I should have asked this. That's, and I don't know that ever changes for anybody. I've talked to people who've been doing this for 40 plus years, and they're like, no, I still leave. And I'm like, oh, I should have asked about this question and those kind of things. But yeah, it was great. Everybody go check that out. Very informative piece.
if you want like an inside peek into what, the process behind actually conducting an interview with an NBA player, go check that out. That's on the basketballbulletin.substack.com. I'll put the link in the description, but that's not the only link that's going in the description. Little thing we've been working on here. The Basketball Bulletin YouTube channel, which you guys can now check out. I'll put the link in the description down below. I would appreciate it if everybody would go and subscribe. I'm planning on doing multiple videos every single week. My ambitious goal is one per day, Monday through Friday. I've got a great editor that's on board, and we're going to put together so I think some really interesting topics, some stuff that we wouldn't normally touch upon here on the Front Office Show. It'll be a shorter format. We're talking like 5 to 10 minute videos where we're going to be diving in to a particular topic. Sometimes it'll be stuff that'll be a little bit controversial. I'll throw in a little bit more opinion, I think, than we typically do here on the Front Office Show. So a little bit different vibe and a lot more narrative focused, which is how I tend to, as much as I do delve into the salary cap waters here, I tend to look at the game through a narrative structure. And so we're going to be looking at things like that. For example, a few of the early topics on the first 3 videos that are published, the NBA essentially potentially killing dynasties with the way that they're trying to move and force teams at the bottom down, or at the top down to the bottom, and vice versa, and create this life cycle of a team, and how dynasties are going by the wayside. There's another one just kind of rounding up all the rumors around the league and what's going to happen with all of that and what that could mean for the league moving forward. And then the big CBA bit about teams above the first tier apron not really being able to trade with each other. I went into detail on that and how that could be really bad for the NBA. So go check it out, guys. The Basketball Bulletin YouTube channel. Again, I'll drop the link in the description down below. Would really appreciate it if you guys would go subscribe to that.
I have nothing to add because I haven't done anything with it. So I will, as soon as we finish here, I will be going on and subscribing, because I knew you were ready to launch. I didn't know you had quite gotten it up yet, but I'm super excited for this. It's another cool thing that we're going to bring you. And a couple people asked, I will have words up on the Basketball Bulletin by the end of the weekend. I'm going to do a thing about like my guys in the NBA draft, like the guys not like the top picks or anything like this, just guys I really believe in that are in the draft, with a handful of words behind that of why I like some of these players. It's not really a ranking or anything like that. They're just players I believe in that are in the NBA draft that I think are going to be good. I'm working on it because I had to take a couple guys off because they withdrew from the NBA draft yesterday, so which something we'll talk about here in a couple minutes. But we'll have a lot more content coming for you on the Basketball Bulletin right now. Trevor and Bryce are carrying that, but I will have some stuff on there by the end of the weekend. It's been a hectic time in our personal lives here for the Smith family, so we're on the back end of that, and things are back to whatever the heck normal is. I don't even know anymore.
I think you and I live lives that are far outside of normal, but normal for us, I suppose.
And we don't have to do school drop off and pick up right now, so that is freed up a big chunk of time. Or if nothing else, it's removed the excuse of, well, I got to leave in 30 minutes, so I probably shouldn't start something new. Like now, I don't even have that excuse to go to. So it's instead of well, I'll watch one more video on this guy's jump shot. Like it's like, all right, I'll actually sit down and write because I don't have to leave the house here in 20 minutes. So let's go.
Excuses are gone. All right.
That's it.
Let's guys, check the links in the description down below for the Basketball Bulletin. Again, we'd appreciate if you guys would go check those out. All right, let's start here. The Studio Stu says he's ready to roll here. The Clippers are determined to retain Paul George and James Harden. Not a surprise. I mean, if anything else was coming from the Clippers, it would be like, whoa, what happened here?
Yeah.
But there's teams circling, right? I mean, the 76ers, Oklahoma City, maybe it could be a landing spot. So these there's options out there, but the Clippers, despite rumored to, they're rumored to not want to give Paul George a full max deal. They want to keep him in line with Kawhi Leonard. What happens when push comes to shove? Well, it sounds like regardless, the Clippers, they want to keep him. They want to keep James Harden, and they want to open their new building with their full squad.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned it the other day. Philadelphia is going to loom out there as like the cap space
Yeah.
boogeyman for all of these main guys. Obviously, not James Harden. I feel pretty confident in saying
No,
that's
they're
not
not going after him.
but Paul George, Jimmy Butler trade, or if anybody else hits free agency or comes up in the trade market, Philly's going to be there kind of looming just because of the ease of ability to do it, whether it's sign the player directly or trade for them. That is going to be big. But yeah, the Clippers have said all along, we want to be a good team when we open the new building. They got Kawhi extended, they got Ty Lue extended. Now it's like we got to get the other two main pieces of this kind of four-person core locked in place here. And Harden, that's probably the easier one. In some respects, though, I think they would like to have clarity with Paul George, because if Paul George leaves town, James Harden might be like, actually, then I need a little bit more money, right? Like if you were thinking you could get me for, I'm pulling it out of thin air, but 30 million a year, I need 35, because what else are you going to do? What if I leave too? Now, of course, that means there needs to be somebody in play to sign him, which could happen. Maybe we'll see. But yeah, Paul George, that it felt like such a certainty when Kawhi signed his extension that like, oh, we're going to get the Paul George one here in the next couple of days. But he has seemed to hold firm on, I want the max deal. Now the discussion point, which has been brought up by a few people, I don't know if we've discussed it, is could you get him to give on the max money by offering him? He would have to go to free agency. You can't do this in an extension. But if he goes into free agency saying, we'll give you the no trade clause, we'll do that for you. I would, personal opinion, pay him the max over the no trade clause. The max is not going to
Yeah.
impact you more than just money wise. I'd rather do that than give him a no trade clause. I think no trade clauses are maybe the most dangerous thing a team can do, especially with the older veteran guys and guys who are injury prone. So that's my personal opinion. But that has been floated out there too, that he is talking about, hey, even if I don't do an extension, I sign. I want a max and a no trade clause, and that you can't give them both. If you're the Clippers, I would hold firm on that if I was them.
Yeah, I agree with that. That would be really tough to give them both of those things. I mean, no trade. You mentioned no trade clauses. We saw it with Bradley Beal. I mean, how much it nerfed Beal's value on the trade market, and it's just a dangerous thing to do. So I think it'll be interesting to see all that plays out. This is the kind of thing that I would imagine, unless the Clippers suddenly give, it'll get done closer to free agency, closer to, as we get through June, because at that point, that's when suddenly the threat becomes that much more real of, hey, suddenly July 1st, or I guess the evening of June 30th, I actually could go and sign with, OKC. I could go sign with the 76ers, and there wouldn't be anything you could do to stop it. So I think at that point, that's when I think both sides will really start to get serious about this. I still think Paul George likely sticks around. If he doesn't, he probably is the top free agent on the market, right? He's got to be the top guy.
Sure. Yeah, guys who are like realistic to change teams at that point, for
Yeah.
sure. Because I don't, I mean, maybe I'm reading this completely wrong, but I don't think LeBron's changing teams. I don't think Pascal Siakam's changing teams. I don't think Tyrese Maxey's changing teams. So yeah, I think we do land in a spot where it is Paul George then. And I'm not the biggest Paul George guy in the world, just because I worry about how much he misses time now. But Paul George is still very, very, very good at basketball. I think there's a world where he's not the right guy for Philadelphia necessarily, just because I would be afraid of having so much of my cap flexibility and everything I do tied up in him and Embiid. Just two guys I don't know that they're going to be there in April, May, and June the way I need them to be. And that gets a little nerve wracking. But if it was like Orlando, where you can maybe cover for him a little bit better in some ways, I think he would be amazing for a team like the Magic. Or if the Thunder wanted to go back to that, well, sure, why not? Like go for it. So
he'd
yeah,
actually be a great fit there.
but yeah, man, it would be unbelievable there. Yeah, it's funny. The more I go through like free agent fits and Oklahoma City's offseason preview, I've kind of got it outlined. I'm like, man, there's like 15 guys. I'm like, well, he'd be awesome there. He'd be awesome there, because the whole roster is so malleable, right? Like you can do whatever you need to do with it. They don't. It's not like, well, they only need a shooting guard or they only need a center. There's all kinds of ways you could build that roster, and that makes it awesome.
that's going to be one of my next videos for the basketball bulletin is the Thunder and some of the options that they're going to have in free agency. Cause it's, whew, I mean, my good, I think if you were a GM that is out there as a free agent, let's say every job was vacated, the Thunder job might very well be the most attractive job in the NBA right now, because not only do you have this incredible core to build around that's already the number one seed, but you've got flexibility to make just about whatever kind of move you want. I mean, the path is wide open for the Thunder. They can go any direction they want to go. Sam Presti must just be in heaven right now with all the potential. It could be maddening, I suppose, too, but there's so much potential sitting ahead of the Thunder.
And it puts a lot of pressure, right? Because you got to get it right.
Sure.
Because if you don't, you could be in trouble. Not Sam Presti, obviously. It's not like one blown trade is going to ruin it. I mean, he came out and said, yeah, we kind of blew it with the Gordon Hayward trade. And clearly he's not being fired or anything like that. He's got the team in position. They're already really good. And I have been saying this for a while. I think their hoard of draft picks is a little overstated, because I think it's more now quantity than it is quality. I don't see here's like 7 or 8 really great picks in that mix anymore. But that said, it still means something when, if you call and make a trade offer for someone like, actually, we have 3 firsts is our, we've already got that on the table. Okay. Would you like 7? How's that sound? Then it's like, oh, yeah, sure. Actually, I would like 7. Like, let's go. So it's just, it becomes a whole different thing. So, you pulled up the Clippers cap sheet here. This is just as a reminder, because people have asked this a couple of times. We have flipped the Spotrac defaults to 24-25, but everything is there. It's all in drop downs. You can always see the prior seasons and everything if you want to look at them. We go back pretty far in the data. But yeah, they're in a spot where, because I've seen some people say, well, maybe if Paul George and James Harden both left, they could open up max cap space. They can't. They're still going to be well over the cap. They'd open up like the non-taxpayer Emily at that point and be able to do something there. But there's still some big contracts here to work around. And there we go. They're getting down on the free agents and all of our numbers. So
the active cap they're at 173 million. So that's tough. Before we leave the Clippers, what happens with Russell Westbrook? $4 million player option. Does he go somewhere else? Does he stay? Now he's coming off the bench. Is he even comfortable doing that? Where does this go? Because if not the Clippers, where could Russ land?
Personal opinion, he should just opt in and take the $4 million and stay and see how this plays out with the Clippers. Like, that's what I would do, and just try to make it work as best you can. I think there's a world, though, where in his mind it is, well, maybe there's a starting job out there for me for at least $4 million. So I'm going to go try to find it somewhere. And I don't know that that's true. I don't think it is. No one would sign him. I think there are definitely teams that would say, sure, you want to take a minimum to be our backup point guard? Sure. Let's go. But I don't know that any of those are necessarily better positions than just staying with the Clippers for the $4 million. And his whole family's on the West Coast. He's an LA guy. Like, just, I would just opt in and stay there. But I'm not sure that's how it's going to play out. It seems there was a lot of stuff out there about how he still thinks he can start. He still thinks he can be a bigger contributor than just a bench guy. I don't know. I think that's almost a misread of, you can be a bench guy and still play a huge role on a really good team, like you did this year for the Clippers. I mean, I get it. They underachieved. They got knocked out. They had injuries, whatever. But he was still a pretty good player, pretty important player for them. And, I would just stick there. I would not opt out and look for anything else. I just don't think he's going to find what he wants.
I'd agree with that. I don't know if he's going to do it, though. We'll see. Yeah. All right. The 76, we talked about this recently. The 76ers are interested in Jimmy Butler kind of as a fallback, perhaps, to Paul George, that they could be a team that would give Jimmy Butler an extension, a max extension, if the Miami Heat don't want to. But there was some updates here. Apparently, they aren't the only team that would be interested. There'll be other teams interested in perhaps a Jimmy Butler trade with Miami. Where does this go, Keith?
Yeah. While I'm going to run through that, pull that back up and do the drop down and go to Philly's cap sheet, just because I think it's funny. It is, you'll get there. People will understand why I think it's funny in a moment. So now scroll down a little bit. Yep, that's it. There it
There
is.
it is.
4 guys.
There's the whole cap sheet.
That's the whole cap sheet. 4 guys. Only one of them's guaranteed. So there it is. Just it makes me laugh every time I look at it. And I do a thing where I have different versions of depth charts, and it's like guaranteed money, like players with guaranteed money that are on a depth chart. And right now for Philly, it's just Joel Embiid. Like that's it. Just him.
He's the
All
Will
by
Smith
himself.
meme in the
Yep.
empty room.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And there's like a real like world where that could almost happen. I think Ricky Council probably sticks and Jeff Dowtin probably sticks because they're barely above minimum guys. But I do think they might move on from Paul Reed to open up cap space. So now Jimmy Butler, to get into that discussion. So how Philly would do this is Philly would say, we're going to trade for Jimmy Butler into our cap space. We're going to wait. They may not even need to wait. They may be able to just go right into the extend and trade with Jimmy Butler because they have the ability to do that because his salary is already so high. He's not like if you trade for a guy who makes 20 million, he can only get a 20% bump off that. But with Butler, you're going to take him up to his max anyway. So they could probably do that with him in an extended trade. So that may be the way this plays out with another team and where the other team stuff is coming from. Anthony Chang from the Miami Herald reported that Philadelphia interest is real. And there are 2 other teams that are reportedly willing to trade for Jimmy Butler and do the extension. Yeah, mystery teams. There it is. Do the extension with him for the 2 years at it's like roughly 112-ish million is what he could get up to in that. So I think we're in a world where we may see Jimmy Butler on the move. I don't think it's as fully locked in that he stays with the Heat as we once thought it would be. Because if you had asked me, I don't know, even 2 months ago, I would have said, nah, he's not going anywhere. Like, why would he leave? Like they'll do what they need to keep him happy, and they'll keep that moving and retire as a member of the Heat. Now, maybe not. Maybe it is a little bit more in play.
I would caution teams to remember about the curse of any player coming from the Miami Heat and what happens with them. But
Max Strus was okay.
No, Max Strus is fine. Apparently, it's only players coming to the Lakers.
Could be.
Keith, who are the 2 teams? If we had to speculate wildly.
Oh, that's fun. Let me give me a minute.
I'm going to say it's the Knicks and my Lakers.
Lakers
and I'm
tough
as hell.
Boy, that is tough.
It's getting the money there is tough.
Yeah, that's hard. It's because of what we've talked about now recently with the apron stuff because they'd both be apron team. I mean, the Lakers, they'd have a hard time not becoming an apron team if they added Jimmy Butler to that. And then because it's not just about adding him, then it's about finishing out the rest of the roster.
Right.
Knicks, yeah.
And the Heat are above that as well, aren't they?
Yeah, the Heat are also. Yeah, the Heat are.
So so that would kind of eliminate them from. You're right.
Maybe the Knicks, like, because the thing with the Knicks is they could actually send back a couple guys who could help Miami, like play for them. Because it's not you're not just like Philly would just add Jimmy Butler and they don't have to really send anything. They obviously be draft picks or something, but they don't have to do anything crazy. With the Knicks, it would just be. They would have to trade players and actual salaries, and it could be guys who could maybe potentially even help Miami. Let me be true to the exercise.
I've got another one.
I have one I really like as an
okay.
I think it's completely out of left field. You ready?
Okay, hit me.
San Antonio.
Oh, okay. I was going with another Western Conference. Get them out. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself, but San Antonio is a good one. I like that one.
If you wanted to accelerate things a little bit, right? And push it forward.
Right. If you add a point guard, and next thing you know, you add Jimmy Butler to the mix, and that can be good. Mine was Sacramento. Yeah,
Sacramento's the kind of team I could see definitely doing that, like jumping in and saying, "All right, we could deliver you a couple guys who could probably play for you right now. Give us Jimmy Butler. We'll give him the contract. We're trying to take this youngish team and push us up in a guaranteed playoff status." Warriors would be really hard because of the apron stuff. That would get really, really difficult there. There's almost no way to do that and stay under the aprons. Memphis,
I mean, hell, what about OKC? He fits anywhere in OKC. Memphis is a good one.
Yeah, Memphis again. Memphis, oddly enough, it sounds crazy to say this, but Memphis is right now they're an apron team. Now they can get under it if they move decline Luke Kennard's option, but you might need Luke Kennard in a trade. So then that gets a little wonky there. So
And he's got a
yeah,
really
man,
full
that's
roster.
fun. Yeah, that's the other thing. But that kind of almost helps a little bit, right? Because then we could
'Cause you could
give
stack
up
up.
2 or 3 for one and not
Right.
feel so bad about roster spaces. So yeah, I'm curious. I wonder if we'll get any more on that here in the next little bit. And sometimes I almost wonder, is that hey, there's more interest out there. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna have to pay to get them, right? That's how the game
Well,
is played.
and we both know that it can be as ridiculous as um team just to make up some teams, right? Let's say the Wolves call the Orlando Magic and say, hey, are you interested in trading Paulo Banchero? We're looking to do something around Mike Conley. And the Magic go, nope. And they go, okay. And that can be a report. Wolves
Yep.
and Magic talk Paulo Banchero trade, right? I mean,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like that's
My
that's
go-to for that for years has been teams are calling the Lakers, the Cavs, the Heat, whatever team LeBron was on. Hey, do you want to trade LeBron? No. And then we tried to trade for LeBron James, right? Like we had
right.
discussions about a LeBron James trade. Like that's and then that becomes where thankfully I think most of the reporters are pretty he is determined to be in the show
He
today.
is. The dog's got baths today, and so he is just like he's on one here. There's turmoil in the house.
But that's where hopefully the journalists, and I think most of them have gotten pretty good about saying, yeah, but you didn't really have conversations, so we're not even going to report that.
I got clear space here. The cat
Trevor's
crossing.
going to be broadcasting from the floor momentarily here.
At this point, Studio Stu, for anybody listening to the podcast version of the show, Studio Stu is invading my space here and trying to kick me out of my spot. I'm going to take the camera with me and my mic, and I'm going to go sit down on the floor, I guess.
There it is. That's his office now. He is the captain now.
He is the captain now. Captain Stu. All right, let's go here. The Lakers rumored to be nowhere close to hiring a coach. The reporting from Woj coming right on the heels of the Lakers are almost certainly hiring JJ Redick. We've got it's like dueling reports here. Keith, and this was my guess, is that the Lakers probably don't want it out there that, hey, we've already picked the guy when we're still interviewing other guys right now. And so, hey, let's push back. We're not anywhere close to making a decision. Let's pump the brakes on this and let's put that out there. That's my guess as to what's going on here.
I agree with you. I also think we're in a world where if it is JJ Redick, I do think we're going to get the whole we're not hiring him till after the finals is over conversation. And I've seen some people say, but doesn't he need to be in place earlier than that? Like they need to know they're not building the team around what JJ Redick wants in the draft or anything like that. And I'll be honest, I don't know that JJ Redick is like fully up to speed on all the draft prospects. That's Rob Pelinka and staff's like arena to make things work. Yeah, and you're going to get them. It might only be a couple days before the draft. So, and let's be realistic here. He'll have had conversations with them long before then, if that's where we're going.
No,
right? I know, shocking. And what? How does the league find them for tampering with ESPN's broadcasters?
Right?
You lose 2 national TV games. I don't know. I don't know what happens, or whatever. I have no idea how they would do that.
You have to do one of your like they make Rob Pelinka go on one of the broadcasts and he has to wear a punishment costume or something. So it's like Rob Pelinka has to wear a chicken suit or something like that. That would be fun. Let's get creative with these punishments.
Yeah, he has to do a broadcast with Rob Lowe. Like they're both on there side by side.
That would be good.
Yeah. Or maybe
they're like wear an NBA hat.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, like his NFL hat.
Right.
They could say, hey, you know what happened now? You were supposed to be on ESPN. Now you're on the Ocho. That's it. Your game's on the Ocho tonight.
ESPN.
Too bad for you. That's where you go to.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. All right, let's go here. Speaking of coaches, we actually had a coach hired. The Wizards named Brian Keefe to be their head coach. So they removed the interim tag. Essentially, the Wizards did, and we talked about this, that the Wizards are a team that they're not going to be looking at the same coaching pool necessarily as the Lakers. There might be some overlap, but they're a team on a different trajectory. They're trying to build this thing up, and they like what Brian Keefe has done with the team, and so they hope that he is going to grow with the team here into the future.
Yeah, and I thought he did a nice job after taking over. I mean, he went 8-31, so it's not like I'm trying to say like he was incredible
But
or
it's still
anything, but I thought he handled the shift to we're going to play more of the young guys, moved into those guys very easier than I think it might have been under Wes Unseld Jr., who had some built up some rapport with some of the guys. Sometimes when it's a new coach, it's just a little easier to say, hey, you're not going to play. Like, sorry, but we're moving into a direction we're going to look at our kids. They've obviously got the number 2 pick in the draft, so it's going to be another kid coming in there, another player that's going to add to the mix, and we'll see how they move forward with that. I'm pretty excited to see what that looks like in Washington, how that all builds out and gets put together for the Wizards. I think they've kind of gone almost like under the radar because they were like more like normal bad for most of the year, even if they weren't all that far off Detroit's like horrendous season that they had. It's not like they were 10 games ahead of the Pistons in the standings. Like they were a lot closer to Detroit than I think people realize. But it's just it was also expected, right? We knew they're tearing this team down. They're completely starting over. So curious to see what they do in free agency trades and the like. And now they've got their coach. So you just keep things moving in that direction now.
I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle Kuzma gets moved.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Yeah.
I think there'll be teams that'll be interested, and wouldn't shock me if they wind up packaging him.
I think he's one of those guys that some of those cap space teams, if they miss out on like a big target, like then it could be you turn to Kuzma. Kuzma could almost be a guy too, where if Philly or Detroit or something says, you know what, the move is not spend 50 million on one player, it's divvy it up a little bit. You could go trade for Kyle Kuzma, get a good productive player for 24, 25 million, whatever he's on this season. And then you move into now we still have 40 million to spend and we go. So that's I would consider that as a reasonable path for a lot of those cap space teams.
All right. Now, the Cavs are going to be interviewing James Borrego, who's also on the Lakers list. In fact, interviewed with the Lakers reportedly yesterday. And then Kenny Atkinson, who is rumored to be the favorite to become the Cavs' next head coach. So they're moving along in their process as well as they're trying to figure out who their coach is going to be. And this is where there is going to be a little bit more overlap between the Lakers list of candidates and the Cavs list of candidates, James Borrego being a notable one. Kenny Atkinson, I know, is on some early lists for the Lakers as well. So the Cavs process moving along too. And again, I expect both the Lakers and the Cavs to make their decisions before the draft. I think that's kind of the drop dead. It'll happen before the draft. So sometime in the next few weeks here in June, these teams will finalize things and pick their candidates.
I think there's a world where the Cavs one even comes well before that, unless for any reason somebody wants to hold out. But at that point, you have to be like, let's say, for example, let's say the Cavs wanted to hire James Borrego. And he's like, I actually want to see how it plays out with the Lakers job. They'll just move on to the next guy. So you can't really play that card because there's other good viable candidates there. So you just have to be careful if you're one of the candidates. But yeah, it's it's a good job, right? They continue to say they're going to keep Donovan Mitchell. They've got whether they trade Garland or Jared Allen or not. I think they probably are likely to at least trade Darius Garland if Mitchell stays. That should return you some nice players that can actually play for you right away and put you in a good position. So I think they're going to be in a pretty good spot there in Cleveland. And I think whoever is their next coach is fortunate. You just now kind of have to move forward on what JB Bickerstaff had helped build versus build it yourself. Like you're building on what was there.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it's going to be. Keith, I just realized what it is here with Studio Stu. I got the air conditioning installed up here in the studio.
Happy.
It's nice and cool in here. So now he's all happy, and he's not just like melting into the carpet like he normally would be. So
he's like, "Bet me, man. We can get all cuddle time here because it's not so hot up here today."
That's right. I've got to set it like a brisk 72 in here just because I can.
Yeah, as you should, my man.
That's right.
I like it. Do you prefer it cold?
I do.
Yeah, me too.
I,
I'm in the same boat. Like I can always layer up. I can grab a blanket if I need to. So I would rather have it be cold than hot at any point. Like there's
my
almost no cold temperature I'm not okay with.
my in-laws keep their house at 80, and
Oh,
I can't do it. I just can't do it. Like you go over
yeah,
there and I'm just dying the whole time. Like I typically keep our house right around like 72, 74, something in there. Like pretty
yep,
chilly is what I go for, which is not fun to pay for during the summer, but
truth.
there you go.
Yep,
All right, let's talk a little bit about the draft withdrawals. We did have the withdrawal date it's come and gone. Bronny was one
yep.
of the guys who did not, so he withdraw from the draft, so he will be in the NBA draft. But we did have a number of guys say, you know what, I'm going to go and maybe I'm going to switch schools or I'm going to go back and give this another try.
Yeah, there's definitely a handful of guys that are headed back to college that are going to transfer and move to other schools. John Calipari at Arkansas is done quite well in the transfer game. He had a couple guys who dropped out of the draft, including John L. Davis, who was became like a hero when Florida Atlantic a couple years ago made the run to the Final Four. He is going to finish his college career at Arkansas with Calipari, which still sounds weird saying Calipari in
It
Arkansas
does.
after so many years at Kentucky, but they so we've definitely got some guys dropping out. We're not going to run through all the names because there were a lot of them, but there's a really good post up over on Real GM that lists out like some of the bigger names that people may know and we're looking for. But my big thing is now you've got quite a few talented players went back to college. You have this really, really good incoming class of freshmen, led by Cooper Flagg and Ace Bailey at the top of the class. And you have some guys who they didn't even declare for the draft, but are good players. College basketball, I think, is going to bounce back in a big way. Not that it needs a lot of help. I mean, people either kind of like it or they don't, or they're a little more like we are, where we fly in for the tournaments and March Madness and
Mm-hmm.
fly back out. But I think there's going to be a lot of talent in the NCAA this year. A lot of really good players leading into what should be a very strong draft class. And I think that's going to have for NBA fans, a whole like new level of interest in college basketball. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and I think the NIL rules have kind of
Yeah,
been a
big
factor
time.
there too, where guys are finding it more lucrative to stay in college. Maybe not quite at the NBA level, but in some cases maybe. But that's something that I think is a factor in all of that. Real quick,
Yep.
before we move on to our next topic, I know you wanted to discuss
Yeah.
what you've been working on over at Spotrac here, and I'm going to pull it up right now. The NBA trade machine, pretty useful this time of year, Keith.
I hope, right? And that's our hope. So notice, please, everyone, if you're watching and if you're not watching, there's in big red, bold, all caps letters, beta on this because there are things we know that still are not working exactly the way we want them to. But what I can assure you is the rosters are accurate and the trade rules are accurate. And what we did, we relaunched the trade machine today with everything flipped forward to 24-25. So all the rules that Trevor and I talked through over the last couple of shows of first apron team, so they can't do this
Mm-hmm.
and they can't do that, and 100% matching and can't aggregate and all those kind of things. That's all there. So if you could do the Lakers and do the perfect, thank you.
I'm going to do our trade from
Yep,
yesterday.
there it is, and it better come up. Not able. Okay, so go up to just above that. Go up to where it says trade deadline mode. Right at the top, just above Lakers, there's a little white drop down box to
Over
the
here?
right. No, to the right. There it is.
Where?
Right above you, right there. Yep. Do that drop
Oh,
down.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Restrictions
switch
off?
it to restrictions off. Yep.
Oh, got it. There
Now
we
you
go.
can trade LeBron because technically LeBron can't be traded because he's a pending free agent. So,
Right.
so we turn the restrictions off. That's another feature. You can turn the restrictions off. And we
I
were
like
talking
that.
about LeBron for KD. So now if you drop KD in there, trade
And look at
fails,
that.
which is
It
what it
failed.
should say. Fine on the Lakers side. As we said, it's the Suns side where it fails because the Suns would be taking back more money than they're sending out.
Yep.
So that's where it fails. Also notice, since you're right there, don't move the screen. When you picked Kevin Durant, it grayed everybody else out immediately. because the Suns is a second apron team. They can't aggregate players in a trade.
Oh, I like it.
So we should have really functional logic on this. How you find it, just go to Spotrac, NBA trade machine. It's right there. You click on it, pull it right up, and it'll launch the trade machine. Everything should be working. If you find anything that's not working, you can either hit me up on social media. My email's in my bio on Twitter. You can send me an email, or you can drop it in the show comments if you want. If you think something isn't working correctly, and we'll look into it and try to get it fixed. Again, this is beta version. The other thing we did, if you scroll back up, if you can real quick, we'll do another quick demo here. Hit select new teams. It's up,
New teams.
where you turned off the restrictions, and then pick Philly as one of the teams, please.
Okay.
Let's do Philly and Miami since we talked about the Jimmy Butler thing.
Sure. All right. We'll do Philly, Miami.
Okay. And start trade. Now, if you pick from Miami, just pick Jimmy Butler. And send him to Philly. And then in Philly's side, that it won't work right now. Like they just try to send them Paul Reed just for the moment. It should fail. It fails. So now go up and just above Joel Embiid's name, where it's in gray, it says cap holds.
Go
to cap holds. You can renounce everybody you need to renounce to make a trade work. So you start just keep going. Keep everybody but like Tyrese Maxey in there, because Maxey would clearly stick and stay. So if you start renouncing, eventually you'll get there, and it will. Once you've cleared enough money off the books, it'll say this trade works.
I see it's processing with each one that I'm renouncing here as we're going through. There's a lot of guys on this.
There. One more probably. Yeah, there it is. Now it works.
There it is.
So now we're there. So
cool.
And we give you a little in orange there, a little note that just says, hey, you only have 12 players, or you only have 4 players on the Philly side.
Sure.
So you need to get in roster compliance. But we built in the functionality for those teams that are going to be cap space teams to be able to renounce players with that. So
very cool.
A lot of fun with that. We've got one more tool that I want to show off really quick here. So if you go to NBA at the top and to draft, and then that will pull up the draft order. But if you click on the yellow button on the right-hand side that says predict first round, you can now drop in anybody there. So if you go to Atlanta, we've got the top 50 pulled off of ESPN in order with players. And you can pick anybody in the top 50 that you want to select and drop them in and pick whatever draft order you are. And then in the top right-hand corner, there's a little camera. You can take a picture of it, screenshot it, and then you have here's my mock draft that you want to send out. And you can do the same thing on the trade machine too. There's a picture. We've cleaned up, I think, as best we can, the like resolution, and it was cutting the screen in weird places. I think we've cleaned up most of that. So hopefully these will be tools that people enjoy and have a lot of fun with here over the next month or so as we get into it. We'll be using these as a way to demonstrate this is how trades actually worked as the year goes along on Spotrac, as well as probably here on the front office show. We'll probably, as we get those trade reports coming in on that first night of free agency, we'll go in and say, hey, here's how it could work if people want to see it actual work and be laid out. So just wanted to plug those and put those out there because we put a lot of time and effort into these two tools.
Very cool stuff, and definitely stuff that everybody should go check out over at Spotrac, doing some awesome work over there. All right, let's finish off. We got a few more topics. Kristaps Porzingis ramping up. He probably will be ready for game one of the finals. So. It seems like things are moving that direction. I know that you never want to jump the gun, but probably heading towards that.
Yeah, and I think the coaching staff is playing it, mostly Joe Mazzulla, obviously the one talking to the media. He's playing it a little coy with, he's doing better, he's looking better, he's working really hard and all that. But we are hearing he's doing a lot of one-on-one work already. Sounds like he's ramping up to some point in the next week here before the final starts, doing some probably 5-on-5 work and getting out there. So that seems to be his goal. He put a thing out there of like, basically said like I'm planning to be ready for the finals. Like I'll see you then with that. A couple of the players have talked and said they think he looks really good and is moving well. So hopefully we're going to get him whole and ready to go for the finals.
All right, the last thing we've got, Dwight Howard signs with the Taiwan Mustangs.
Yes.
There you go. Dwight has been openly campaigning to return to the NBA for quite a while now, but he is signing in Taiwan for the time being. And I know you had something on this, something that you have told me that I can't know. You want to surprise me with something here?
Yeah. So this was my favorite part of this whole thing, and I actually went and translated the Taiwanese press release to one. I was trying to read through like what he was actually signing for, but they have a player. His name is Samuel Degara on the team, and for anybody who doesn't know, in Asia, one of the big things is they give the players nicknames. With this, like I think Jimmer Fredette's nickname was something like the Lonely Ghost or something like that for whatever reason. So they give them what I think are absolutely amazing nicknames. Dwight Howard's nickname is already apparently Warcraft, and Samuel Degara is Dracula, and a team is calling them the Two Beasts Connection. Which absolutely I love. Like it's my favorite thing now. I got to find a way to watch a Taiwan Mustangs game with the two beast connection. Samuel Degara, by the way, is 7'6", and I think it's like a legit 7'6" because he's also like 35, 36 years old. He's been around for a while, playing in a lot of like lower level leagues. But yeah, the Two Beast Connection, Warcraft and Dracula.
So and Warcraft, like where? Okay,
I don't even know why, but I'm here for it. Let's go.
That's what I'm going to call it now. Anytime there's like a Twin Towers type lineup, I'm going to say it's a Two Beast Connection.
The Two Beast Connection. Like, and this is in the team's press release. Like, this isn't even necessarily fan created stuff. It's in the team press release. I love it so much. It was like my favorite thing I read this morning at like 7:30. I was like, what? And I was like, am I awake or am I still dreaming? Like,
is this real?
Is this real life? What was that kid's name? Do you remember that kid? Went to Charlie from the dentist.
Oh,
isn't that his name?
Yeah. Yep.
That was like the early days of YouTube.
That was one of the first things. Yeah. Yep.
First viral videos. Yeah.
Was that like Charlie bit my finger or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Charlie bit my finger.
Oh, that's a good place to end the show before we go
it is.
too far off the rails. But I do appreciate. Yeah, that's what it was. I do appreciate everybody for joining us. Don't forget to go check out the Basketball Bulletin. You can go subscribe to the YouTube channel, check out the Substack as well. We'll put the links in the description. Once again, thank you everybody for joining the show. Tomorrow we'll be live for Front Office Friday. Going to be a good time. Can't wait for that. Till then, see ya and stay safe.